welcome to Coffee Hour. It's Thursday. It's Thursday. You've made it almost to the end of the week, but you have made it through 3 days of Coffee Hour. So, hey, that's something to be said, right? Welcome to the show, everybody. Thanks for joining. Thanks for sharing it with everybody. Thanks for letting us break records with downloads and video views and all for the show. We appreciate it. Again, you can be anywhere in the morning. I know you're getting your day started. You're heading to the job site, or you're getting ready to go to a bid, or maybe you're just getting ready to go into a safety meeting, and you're like, dude, hold up. I got to have coffee hour. I can't be doing all this stuff without my coffee hour. I appreciate it. Thanks for joining us. It's great to be here again. Always great to wake up. But it's great to be here. I'm in Virginia. Our corporate offices are located now in Virginia. If you haven't heard, we moved from Texas back to Virginia. Took my boat in the other day, and the lady said, why would you ever move from Texas back to Virginia? I was like, dude, this is where I was born. This is where I grew up. This is my home stomping ground. You know, they always say you make full circle in life, and I made full circle back to where I grew up, and essentially where I grew up. I grew up in Charlottesville, Virginia, so right down the road, but very close, very close. So, hey, thanks for joining me. Hey, as always, do me a favor. Let us know in the comments who you are, where you're from, if you're in our program, if you've tried our programs, and let us know what you got going on. I love to live vicariously through you, and we have been getting, you see me post them on social media, a lot of students, a lot of people that have been successful in our programs or just watching our show has helped them achieve licensure or take their game to the next level. And I'm always excited to hear that. I, again, get more excitement out of other people's success. I'm a winding down kind of guy. I'm just kind of doing this because I love to do it. But at the end of the day, I love when other people are successful and achieve goals and things like that. I don't know what it is. I just love when somebody does it and they're so excited, and it means that their family could potentially make more money, more opportunities. I love giving advice and helping people out. I'm not perfect. I don't know it all. Never claim to, even though some of my haters say that I act like I do. I don't think I do. And what you see is what you get. So if you meet me at the NECA or if you meet me at the NFPA conference, this is it. I'm not going to be any different. So don't worry about getting a different person when you're there. Same guy, always have been. And, I don't put on a fake facade that some people might put on, that type of thing. So, all right. So we're going to get back in today. We're going to be talking about hazardous locations. This is part 3. We're going to be talking more about being very specific to Class 1, Division 1, Class 1, Division 2, and the wiring methods and all. We're going to get pretty deep into that today, hopefully. But I did want to tell you, we are going to do a little segment where we're going to go look at the NECA question of the day today, today's response. And because I want to use it to illustrate that you always have to be careful in responses, especially because you're not always going to get exactly what you thought you wanted to get. So we're going to look at that. And we're also going to be showing you that we're going to be introducing a new segment where we actually will be using one specific forum over on Facebook. And we joined it. It's Electricians Forum. I have a million followers on that forum. So that's a big forum. We don't pick the little ones that have the little wannabes in it. We went on and took the biggest forum, and we're going to be using that in certain segments to look at it and look at people's questions and answer their questions. But we'll also be looking at some of the comments, and you can kind of see where things can get really crazy in some of the comments that people make. So again, if you post on that forum and you have something to say and you're going to be worried that you're going to get potentially embarrassed because of something, again, don't share what your username is over on Facebook. But again, you shouldn't worry about that because we're not going to be belittling anybody. We're not going to be doing a la Angry Sparky type of jump on you thing. We're just going to kind of look at it and explain things and maybe use it as a lesson in the future. So we're going to be adding that segment as well. Also, we do have some lines up in the future to have some guests to come on. So I'm kind of working through those little things. I'm very selective about that. So we got a lot of things that we're going to be, growing the show. So it's not going anywhere anytime soon, going anywhere. Okay. So that's, if you've all settled in and you enjoy coffee hour in the morning, don't worry. It's not going anywhere. All right, let's do some shout outs and live vicariously through all of our members that join us every morning. And if you're new, let us know you're new. It's the first time here. Say, hey, it's my first time here. Also, don't forget that it is sponsored by Trade Hog. Definitely been getting a lot of feedback from the hog. We introduced an update to it. And we also introduced some elements of, I think it's a Gronk, whatever from the X model we've introduced in it with our tailored prompt. So we're trying to make it even better and better and better. So that's quite interesting. So we have a lot of people that have been subscribing to Trade Hog lately. We appreciate it. We're hoping you get the best out of it. It seems by far the most popular one is the basic, but we have a light and a premium version. It's totally up to you. We don't care. It's all about how many searches you get to do per hour. You're limited based on the subscription you have. That's all. And then, of course, the premium lets you get a mobile app access, that type of thing. But other than that, it's essentially the same thing. All right, let's do some shout outs real quick. What's up, Paul? Glad to have you here, my friend. Thanks for joining us. Paul is also setting the tone. We'll set it today. #win. There you go. We're doing the drawing for June. We are slow on the drawing for the first one because, again, we didn't have anything really in place, and I left it all on Jeff's hands. So we got the courses out of the way first, get everybody set up in their courses they won, and then slowly going through the other things. But it will be quicker next time, I promise you. It's just having to create how we're going to do it. And we thought we were going to delegate that to somebody, but that didn't work. So Jeff has got it back. And as y'all know, Jeff does the Trade Hog as well, and he does the interactive videos working with that team. So again, that's something that we're launching a little more detailed in June. I don't want to talk about that. That's the interactive thing I've been promising you over on Fast Tracks 2. But he's got a bunch of them lined up to launch. But he's told me not to talk about that yet. All right, so Rob, good morning. Glad to have you here, Rob. What's up, Cray Cray from Music City? Glad to have you in the house. It is almost Friday. What's up, Jonathan? Jonathan, thank you for your subscription and thank you for your course purchase. Hopefully you'll get something out of it. I'm sure you will. Let's see, who else we got in here? Adam's in the house. Always expect Adam to be here. He's a fellow code nerd, getting some education today. Thank you, Adam, for joining us. Let's see. Let's skip my posts that I did. What's up, Tom? Tom's all set up to do his proctored exam for his CMECP. We're excited to have Tom in the family. If you're interested in becoming a CMECP, feel free to ask Tom any questions. I'm sure Tom will help you. Tom went through in record time. Nobody's ever gone through, even the new format, nobody's ever gone through it in that time. So it already tells me that Tom had a very high level of knowledge when it comes to the National Electrical Code because he moves through it very well. And so excited to have him part of the family. Let's see here. Paul going, I want my code hashtag. That's the hashtag of the day. What is up, high voltage hands? Thank you for taking the time today to be with us. Appreciate you. JPB, hashtag in the win. Thanks for being here. Let's see here. Frank is in the house. Frank the Great. Good morning. Glad to have you here. The weekend is almost here, but these weeks do go by quickly, don't they? Let's see here. What do we got? Oh my goodness. This is what I'm talking about. Hold on.
Woo, 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 woo. Big dog.
CMECP in the house. Joe Bellatoni is in the house. Thank you, Joe. Thanks for coming. Appreciate seeing you pop in. What's up, Joseph Dunphy? Dunphy? Is that right? Did I say it right? Joseph, this is our fellow from up in New Jersey area. Joseph, thank you for joining us. Love having you here. Santana is in the house. Thank you. What's up, Angel? Angel is in the house. I am doing wonderful today. I cannot complain. I'm breathing. I've had my quota of coffee this morning. So as y'all know, when y'all see me switch to Diet Pepsi, I have been cut off for the coffee. Not stopping the caffeine rolling, but I'm cut off with the coffee. Let's see here. What's up, Tara? North Alabama. Got a Bama girl in the house. Thank you for joining us. Let's see here. Erie's in the house. Thanks for joining, Erie. Let's see. High Voltage Hands is getting ready to take his EVITP in California tomorrow. Positive thoughts, my friend. Positive thoughts. What's up, Angel? I am doing great. Good morning. Glad to have you here. Manny, wearing our Code Nerd green in the house, is joining us. Thank you, Manny. Glad to have you here. Oh, let's see here. What's up, Marlon? Marion, excuse me. Sorry, Marion. Excuse me. Welcome. And he is welcoming all our fellow code nerds that come in here as well. What's up, AJ? Glad to have you here. Marlon's here. AJ's here. And of course, Charlie. Charlie is in the house. Good morning. Welcome. Glad to have you here. Again, if you're new, let us know. Usaya or Usel, I think that's what it is. Fast Track Tube subscriber, studying for your master's license. There you go. Thanks for joining us. Let's see here. Not new here, but a Fast Track student. Absolutely new to the program. And he's also using Fast Track's Tube to watch Coffee Hour. That is awesome. Also, remember, it is so easy to do Coffee Hour on your phone. Just get our free mobile app. Dude, you don't, even if you're like, Paul, I'm not buying any of your products, that's fine. Get Mike's products, get Ryan, just learn the code. It doesn't matter who you use. I appreciate you using us. Use whoever. We just want you to get better at the code. But get our mobile app because it has a lot of resources. And with one click, you can watch Coffee Hour right from your phone. That's what I'm talking about. You can even listen to our podcast. You can even read our blogs. One click. That's it. Get it. It's free. I'm not going to push anything down your throat. Promise you. Adam says Trade Hog is badass. It is, and it's getting better and better and better all the time. I am excited about it. It is, people say, why is it any different than chat? I got in a long conversation with a gentleman yesterday. They say, is it any better than Chat GPT? And I'm like, no, it's essentially the same. You're going to pay $20 for ChatGPT. And then the other free ones, you're going to be very limited and it's very generic and it's not going to be tailored. Ours, you're getting the same access. It's just tailored to your industry. And it's also with the Hog, it's designed to be more specific to references so that when you're in the field, so you don't get all this other fluff. That's the only difference, okay? So even if you don't use ours and you want to use chat and you want to pay for their $20 a month, that's okay too, but let it enhance your knowledge, okay? Work with it and understand that it's not going to always be 100% correct, okay? You have to massage it. You're the experts. AI, in my opinion, is never going to take over what you know, but if you use it right and you ask the right questions and you have a little bit of knowledge to how you ask the question, you can use it to solidify a position that you want to apply, whether it's code or an application. You got to be careful how you use it, that type of thing. And again, remember I say don't trust everything, always verify, that type of thing, okay? I'm just saying. What's up, Brandon? Studying hard. I know you are in your calculations. Also, I will tell everybody something that I wasn't supposed to announce, but y'all know that we in the flashcards, the very first one came out for articles and chapters. That first one came out. We do have a calculations flashcard set coming out. Don't bombard me of when. I know that's the first thing Brandon's going to say is when. I don't know yet. It's not done. But we are going to have a flashcard set of calculations. Okay, so again, we are going to make a commitment to making a lot of these flashcards. So, and they're going to be very specific to certain applications. So there is going to be one specific to calculations. Okay, all right, where are we at? Marlon, if you get the time, could you please help me with the code article 210.12? Post your question, and since that's AFCI. Post your question. I'll see if I can answer it. If we got time to answer it. If it's too deep and it takes us off our topic of hazardous locations, then we'll save that for a question, you should send it to paulabernathy.com. That's the best way to do it because you get a more detailed response. But if we have time, I'll do my best. Let's see here. Where are we at? Good morning, Van Man. Glad to have you here. Good morning, Edgar in the house. Glad to join. Thanks for joining us. Let's see. Marlon says, I have spoken with you about this before, but this is a section HJ says proves his point. Okay, well, share it with us. We'll see. Maybe it does. And we'll see if it does prove his point. What's up, Thomas? And he may be right. I might be wrong. What's up? Red Dog's in the house.
Woo. Big dog.
Welcome. Glad to have you here, my friend. Joseph says I did pronounce it correctly. Dude, there you go. Dunphy's whiskey, Irish whiskeys. All right, there you go. No relation. You wish there was, though, don't you? Don't you? All right, so it'd be nice to have an inheritance, somebody like made whiskey, like I was related to Jack Daniels or something, and then Jack Daniels, dude dies, and all of a sudden I'm left all this money. Hey, you know how they say money can't buy happiness? Well, you know what? If you were unhappy before you got money, that ain't gonna fix that. But if you were a happy kind of person and you got money, dude, I'd still be happy. I just have a lot of money. There'd be no difference. Okay, there we go. We got CMECP shouting out. Okay. Joe's in the house. Greetings. Southwest Florida. David, CMECP in the house. That's what I'm talking about. What's up, Edward? Thanks for joining us. Watching over on the tube as well. Good morning, Nepo. Glad to have you here. Rob, good morning. Sending to morning, celebrating the last day of school with my kids. There you go. That is true. I never got out of school until June 4th. And I hear kids are getting out earlier now, back in May, that type of thing. Celebrating with the kids. There you go. So, yeah, Paul says win. What's up, Doug Little? Shout out to Doug Little. Whoop, whoop. Hold on. There you go. Passed his master's in Texas. Everybody give a shout out. Show a little love for Doug. Again, nailed it. Did a good job. There you go. High voltage, what app do I need? It's just the mobile app. You go to our website. Go to fasttracksystem.com. Go to navigation. You'll see something that says mobile app. Go to it. If you're on your phone, click on the link. It'll ask you if you want to load it on your screen. Say yes. And, dude, that's it. What's up, Felix? Glad to have you here. Welcome. Good morning, Ryan. Glad to have you here, my friend. Thank you for joining us. Seattle, Seattle? Is that what it is? Welcome. Thanks for joining us. Let's see here. What do we got here? Yeah, got a lot of love being shared out with everybody. Okay, so let's get into it today. A little bit of a lesson. And then we'll go look at the Nika. You know what? Actually, let's go look at the Nika of the day question first. How about that? Let's just get that, out of the way. Okay, just kind of get it out of the way. Okay, so here was the question. It was actually yesterday's. And so if you're not subscribed to the Nika thing, you should. It doesn't cost anything. It's free. And it's also neat because you could actually, what's up, Peter? Thanks for joining us. You could actually take the question, copy it, and throw it into TradeHog and see what TradeHog has to say. Okay, that's interesting. See how it does. And we learn the model's an always a learning model, right? Okay. All right. So anyway, let's kind of look real quick here. All right. So we're going to be focusing right here, if you will. This was the response. The question was asked, and then the response from Nika. All right. So the person asks, and I'll read it so that we all can see it. I'm sure you can see it on the screen, but I'll read it. It says, "Please help." It says, "We installed 3 separate disconnects to handle different load groups at a warehouse. One for lighting, one for HVAC, and one for machinery. Each one is in its own enclosure, but mounted side by side. The inspector flagged the setup and said they weren't grouped properly. Is there a specific way these need to be arranged to meet the code?" Okay, thanks, Henry B. Now, the response that came back, okay, so this agrees with me. So then, well, that's because it's ours, right? We're always going to train our model, Marlon, to disagree with the HJ. Come on. What are you talking about? All right. What are you talking about? All right. So here it says, the answer says, "Hi, Henry. Thank you for reaching out. The answer to your question, yes, there is, per NEC 230.72a, all service disconnects must be grouped together and must be readily identified as a single service disconnecting location." You do that by the grouping, by the way. It says, "This generally means they should be mounted side by side in a common area with clear labeling that indicated their purpose. If they're spaced too far apart or lack labeling, the AHJ may consider them non-compliant. Grouping is critical so emergency responders or service personnel can disconnect power quickly in the emergency." Okay, so this is an example where the question is asked, and again, there's not enough information in the question Because when I think of warehouse, is this a feeder running to a warehouse? Because we're talking about lighting, HVAC, and machinery. I doubt that that's going to be how the service is set up, because I doubt you're going to have a whole separate setup service just for the lighting and just for the HVAC or just for the machinery. I doubt that. So their reference to service, which is correct, to me is probably not the right reference for that scenario. Now, the first thing that I would tell anybody is to push back against the AHJ or the inspector and say, you need to give me more information. When you say something's not grouped, I need to know what you mean, because you tell me right in your question that they're located side by side. So if he said they weren't grouped properly, you have to give me more information in order to be able to give you any, code reference. So this is the correct code reference for grouping of services. And so the answer is making an assumption that we're talking about services. And it may not be services, right? So it's kind of one of those things that you got to be very detailed in the question. But when I see this makes me say, and I get the generic answer from Nika. I get it. You got to give them something, right? But at the end of the day, what I'm looking at, and I'm going, okay, well, that's not the only reference, right? Because if I come back to the NEC, right, and I come over here and I go to 225, right? Because so it could be that, right? And so then I come down here and let's see here. So I'm going to be looking at, let's go down here. Let's see here. Number of services. Okay, that's 250. Okay, so disconnecting me. Let's just go here. Let's go to grouping right here. I don't know why it's not going there. There we go. Okay. All right, so this is when you're dealing with other than service. So my response to the individual would have been broader than that, okay? And I get it. Time is limited. They don't want to answer. But I can't answer questions like that. So you see the difference when you ask something like that to a company versus a code expert? Because I would have said you did not give us enough information on whether we're talking services or you're talking feeders. Because in a feeder application, grouping of disconnects, the 2 to 6 disconnects is as permitted in 225.33 shall be grouped. Each disconnect shall be marked to indicate the load served. Okay, there is an exception for here. Okay, for this specific application. All right, so they have to be grouped. We don't define what grouping is in the code. We just know that they are in close proximity. So it very much mirrors the same language that you would have seen in their reference to 230.72. Okay, very similar, right? Very similar type of application. But the problem with the question of the day is it leaves too many variables in there because I don't believe they're talking about services. Now, the response that I would say is, you said the inspector says that they're not meeting the grouping properly. Well, that means you have to ask way more questions. So that's the difference between consulting and somebody doesn't, let's say, ask Paul a question, right? And so this is Brandon. I've explained that question to you over on the chat thing. Okay. So probably not going to get into that today. I'm sorry. Send it to paulabernathy.com. But you have the resistance, and again, you have 3 conductors, so you're going to divide it into the 3 different conductors. Okay. So anyway, where was I at? So the scenario is what we're looking at here is you got to ask additional questions in order to be able to get an accurate response. And so in the scenario of the question of the day, the NECA question of the day, it could be to a feeder application, right? That type of thing. But my question would be to the inspector. And this is how I tell you to challenge people, right? And I tell you this all the time, is I say, look, challenge people because you don't just accept the status quo, okay? You want to challenge them on that application. Because again, when you just say they're not properly grouped, what do you mean? You just said that they're side by side, right? So when they're side by side, then that should be compliant. Okay, shouldn't have an issue with that. Okay, that type of scenario. All right. Let's see where are we at. Okay. So that's the Anika question today. Also, while I'm here, I will go on and show you the forum that we're going to be using to look at people's questions as well in the future, right? And that is this forum right here. This is on Facebook. So just so you see, in case you're a member of this forum, it is titled Electricians. It's a public group, so nothing that we look at in here and discuss and comments that are made in here is going to offend anybody because it has 1 million members. It's a public group. Whatever you post, it's kind of like one of those sayings is don't put anything in an email that you don't want the world to see if it ends up going to court, right? That type of scenario, right? So that scenario. So there'll be pictures and stuff that we look at and comments that people make as well in here that we will also comment on. So keep that in mind. An example, I'll give you an example. Hold on. I was going to show you an example. I was looking earlier and I had one that I was laughing at. But let's see here. Let me see if I can find it. It's just a question, but it was kind of funny. Let's see here. I don't see it now. Maybe the dude deleted it. I don't know. But anyway, we'll be going through here and looking at some of the comments and stuff in the future. So keep that in mind as we're gonna. So this is the one that we're gonna be using. Okay. So if you have something on here, if you're a member of this forum and you find something on there that you want us discussed, then do me a favor. All you got to do is let me know where it is, or you can go to something and you can right click on it or copy it, or you can use this feature and you can, save a post or share it with me in some way so that we can look at it. There you go. You can share right here and share it with me on paulabernathy.com. And then what I will do is I will we'll discuss it on an upcoming episode. Okay. How's that sound? We'll discuss it. Okay. All right. So anyway, all right. So first thing though, also let's go on back here to Trade Hog. And I want to show something to Brandon real quickly because I don't have time to get into it because I got to get into this hazardous location. Otherwise, it's going to take me a freaking week. And I could just tell you that you're going to divide it by 3, Brandon, but it's something that really need to show in an example. And I really don't have it geared up to be able to do that. And so I'm going to take your question, for example, and we cut it into Trade Hog and click on it. Okay. And I know it's probably difficult to see, but I'll zoom up a little bit. Okay. And here's for when calculating total resistance of parallel conductors, you divide instead of multiplying because the resistance is parallel path is less than the resistance of the individual path. Okay. So that's why you're going to be dividing it by 3 because the resistance of the single run is going to be less when you have multiple paths, right? Okay, so this is due to the fact that the parallel conductors provide multiple paths for current to flow, effectively reducing the overall resistance. This is something that we're working on. This is kind of the formula process in the hog, the way it looks at things. And we can't make this for some reason, it just brings back actual equation formulas, okay? So this principle is consistent with the information provided in Chapter 9, Table 8, which lists the resistance per foot for various conductors. When using these values for parallel conductors, you apply the parallel resistance formula, and again, ultimately, it's going to be divided by 3, okay? So and we do have an example for that, and if you want, post your question over on paulabernathy.com, Brandon, or up on the mobile app and give me an example because I'm telling you, because of your question, you probably got that in the database. You got one of those questions and you don't understand it. We'll post it there, okay? Don't leave it open-ended so that we don't have an example that I can share with somebody. Otherwise, I'm going to tell you, like I said earlier, you're simply dividing by 3 because you're going to have less because you have multiple conductors in parallel, that type of thing. So you have your overall length, and then you're going to divide that by 3, okay? Your overall resistance, and you're going to divide it out, Okay. Anyway, we can show that in an example. All right. But I'm not going to do it today because I don't have an example to show you. All right. So let's see if I can get back. Where was I? Okay. Let's get back to good morning, David. Glad to have you here. Good morning, Ryan. Glad to have you here. Let's see here. Let's get back to hazardous locations so we can somewhat try to get something accomplished today. All right. Class 1, Division 1 locations. Class 1 Division 1 locations contain ignitable concentrations of flammable gases, flammable liquid producing vapors, or combustible liquid producing vapors. Okay. One, which exists during normal operation. 2, might often exist due to repair, maintenance, and leakage. Or 3, might be released because operational failures cause simultaneous breakdowns of electrical equipment capable of becoming a source of ignition. Okay, so that's a Class 1 Division 1 type of location. Class 1 Division 1 locations, meters, instruments, relays, including kilowatt-hour meters, instrument transformers, resistors, rectifiers, and thermonic tubes. Thermionic? I have no idea what the hell that is. Thermionic tubes? I have no idea. I'd have to have a good one for Trade Hog. Somebody search Trade Hog and say, what the hell is a thermonic tube? Shall be provided with enclosures identified for Class 1 Division 1 locations. So I'm an electrician. All I know is if it says it's that, then I know that it has to be in a Class 1 Division 1 location. It has to be an enclosure identified for that. I know that part of it. Enclosures for Class 1 Division 1 locations include explosion-proof enclosures and purged and pressurized enclosures. Okay, this is all out of 501. Again, 501s being very specific to Class 1 applications. Okay, so remember, where 500 is very broad, it's kind of giving you the overview of how to determine the class and the division. Then you get into 501, and it's very much specific to flammable gases, vapors, things like that. Okay. Now, Division 2, as opposed to Division 1, is Division 2 locations are areas where volatile flammable gases, flammable liquid producing vapors, or combustible liquid producing vapors are handled, processed, or used. Okay, so when we say handled, maybe exchanges. Okay, all right, Paul says they're vacuum tubes for amplifiers. Okay, interesting. I don't know why they would be in that location, but there you go. They are. There you go. So handling any of those volatile fuels, processing, exchanging, things like that, that could cause a problem. Okay, then that is a Class 1 Division 2 location. Okay, so it says, let's say handling or processing or used, but the primary volatile substance, liquid gas vapor, is normally enclosed containers or systems. Okay, so like storage. Okay, and is subject to escape only during accidental rupture or breakdown, or such enclosures, or in the cases of abnormal condition. Number 2, are equipped with positive mechanical ventilation that normally prevents the buildup of gas vapor concentrations to ignition levels. In other words, it could be in a location where it has a system in place where it has a positive mechanical ventilation. So once the pressures or something gets to a certain level, it mechanically ventilates that to keep it below certain thresholds. Okay, that area would be a Class 1 Division 2 location because of that mechanism. Okay. And then, of course, the third one for this location is are adjacent to a Class 1 Division 1 location that might communicate ignitable gaseous concentrations unless prevented by adequate positive pressure ventilation from a clean air source with adequate safeguards against ventilation failure. So you could have a location that's right next to a Class 1 Division 1 that unless it has something that can keep it from getting from point A to point B, to do that, then you have an adjacent location that is, if you don't have that precaution in place, then you've got a Class 1 Division 1 location, and immediately adjacent it, that location, if there's nothing to prevent it okay, no positive pressure ventilation, nothing, then all of a sudden you have a location that becomes a Class 1 Division 2 by proxy of its association with Class 1 Division 1, okay? And that talks about that in 500.5b2. Now, what about the wiring methods? Okay, as a wiring cable guy, I probably get a lot of these questions about the different types of wiring methods that I can use in a Class 1 Division 1. All right, well, let's start with that. The fixed wiring in Class 1 Division 1 locations shall consist of threaded metal conduit, either rigid metal or steel intermediate, okay, so RMC or IMC, or MI cable, you actually have to have the fittings that are also listed for the location that you're going to be using. That seems like probably not the everyday thing. I mean, how many of you have worked with MI? But now add on the fact that we have to make sure that the fittings are also rated for the environment that it's going to be used, or the hazardous location is going to be used. Probably not going to happen, but I'm sure they're out there getting used all the time. Okay, I'm sure they are. It says in industrial establishments, okay, so this is different. So you have industrial establishments, and then you have other hazardous locations that may not be industrial establishments, but in an industrial establishment, and who determines what that is? What's an industrial establishment? Because we need to know that also in cable tray applications, right? When we can put single insulated conductors inside of a cable tray, it's only applicable to an industrial establishment. Who makes that decision? I would say the design professional, the local AHJ, the building, zoning, all those type of things are going to make that decision. If you have an industrial establishment, I would think you have to produce something unlike a commercial location like a Walmart. I would not consider that an industrial establishment. Encore Wire, for example, is an industrial establishment. It produces wire and cable. So again, it's going to be up to the AHJ to make that decision. Now, in those industrial establishments with restricted public access, okay, so you just can't walk in. Encore Wire is like that. You have to go through a gate. You can't just go into Encore Wire. And it says where conditions of maintenance and supervision, that means there's people there all the time. That's what that means. That doesn't mean, oh, I'm going to hire people, Paul and his people, or Samantha and her people, or Tony and her, to come in and repair something. No, it has to be maintained and supervised by qualified personnel, not just hire somebody to come in when there's a problem. So that's going to also restrict it to an industrial establishment that has a full-time staff that does maintenance and service and all those type of things, and they supervise the system at all times. That's what that means, and that's going to also help identify whether or not it's an industrial establishment or not, okay? And of course, qualified persons, again, qualified, I always try to define qualified is I do not want to hire a residential guy to be working on hazardous locations. Yes, he may hold the same license. Yes, he may be a master, but does that make them a qualified person in that specific area of expertise? Absolutely not, right? I do not take a normal electrician who's never done PV before and call them a expert or call them a qualified person in doing PV, because they're not. The code says they can do it. Their license may allow them to do it. Does that make them a qualified person? No, it does not. Okay, so unless you get some additional training, that type of thing. Unless you're willing to learn on the job, that type of thing. But anyway, hazardous locations, bigger deal with that. You don't just all of a sudden be a master electrician one day and decide to go do hazardous locations the next day. I hope not. Anyway. All right, assuming that it's industrial establishment, assuming that it has restricted public access, assuming that it has maintenance and supervision by qualified persons, then you can use listed types of MCHL. HL stands for hazardous location MC. It's not your normal MC, okay? Not, yeah, PV for dummies, that's right. Buy that book and learn on the job, right? You have to remember that an MC cable typically is not normal interlocked MC. It is usually a corrugated style. So MCHL is MC metal clad for hazardous locations. So it's a little different, right? So ITC instrumentation tray cable, again, it's going to have the HL classification. TCERHL, that is not your normal tray cable. That is, even though it is exposed run, or some people call it extended run, however your flavor, that is very specific and it has to have additional testing on it. So it's not just your normal tray cable, okay? And then, of course, you have IM cable under certain conditions are also permitted. Now, as well as optical fiber cables, types OFNP, okay? So if you have an optical fiber application, these are the type of wiring methods that are allowed, okay, in a Class 1 Division 1. And you noticeably see some things that are missing, okay? Right? Now, another thing I will mention, because I get this question a lot that people ask, they go, well, if you're running rigid or you're running intermediate, is there something special about the conductors that go inside of it? No. You can use THHN, THWN-2. You could use XHHW-2. Hell, you could use RHH, RHW-2 if you want. Inside of it itself, is we're talking more about the wiring method, right? There's nothing in there that lets me use a non-metallic product except for a tray cable, that type of product, but it has to have special evaluations and ratings on it. Now, Prismium, for example, Prismium makes an MCHL, Encore Wire did not. Prismium makes that, but also TCERHL, there is a version that Prismium makes that's called AirGuard. AirGuard is like a tray cable on steroids. And so they make that product, which can replace an MCHL. It's easier to cut. It's non-metallic. You don't need any special tools. So again, it's really about working smarter. And so I am not personally, I'm an MC lover. Okay, I love MC cable. I just love the concept of it. It's simple, just the armor, easy peasy. But if I'm going to go with our hazardous location, I'm going to look at tray cable application. Now, here's where there's a difference that people get confused on the application. I cannot run tray cable anywhere. I can only run tray cable in a cable tray. I can only run tray cable on a messenger. I can only run tray cable buried if it's listed for it. And I can only run it in a raceway. I just can't run tray cable on the side of the wall and strap it. But I can MC cable. So you have to be very knowledgeable in understanding the concepts of, yes, it says I can use MCHL, but I can also use TCERHL, but if I use the TC, I have to be careful where I run it. And if I'm going to run tray cable inside of a raceway, it kind of defeats the purpose, right? Because I want to run TCERHL. You get what I'm saying? So as a code guy, gal, y'all have to remember that if I'm dealing in a Class 1 Division 1, I really have to look at the applications. Now, we have some allowances for flexibility and things like that, but this is what's required inside of the Class 1 Division 1 location, the different types of wire methods, okay? I encourage you folks to also go read 501.10 and really absorb it if you're going to do it, because again, it's some great information there. Also, I'm noticing in the chat, folks are loving the tube. Folks are loving the Fast Tracks program. Chad, thank you. Paul, absolutely, says it's all worth it. Dude, we are seeing success from our students, and I think it's the best value out there. Rather than you fail, pay, or buy programs that are video only, or programs that are just DVD, here you get to interact, you get to ask questions, you get to use the interact feature. I mean, you get a lot more. Okay, so I hate to be a plug, but again, I appreciate all you guys. I didn't solicit that stuff. Okay, thank you guys. I appreciate it. All right, let's get back to the lesson. All right, so that's what we've got. And we'll also, real quick, we'll go look at the code, because you know how I am, right? I like to go reference things in the code in case we're paraphrasing on this slide and we're not covering everything. So sometimes I like to take a quick gander so that y'all can see that type of thing. Let's see. Let's see. So let's go over here. Let's see. Oh, there we go. Okay. So here we are. So we're talking wiring methods, right? Shall comply with 501.10a, or, that's the power of or, folks. Y'all remember A or B as applicable. So A is general. It says Class 1 Division 1 locations, the following wire methods shall be permitted. It's a permissive. So, I mean, I could go and use the B, right? If it's a class 1 division 2, but if it's, I'm permitted to use any of these applications depending on what it is. So what you didn't see us talk about is this was the rigid stuff here, okay? IMC and RMC, right? Okay. And you also see that it's PVC conduits, RTRC, HDPE, but it has a caveat. It says where it's encased in concrete of 2 inches thick, provided with not less than 24 inches of cover measured from the top of the conduit to grade. So there is some caveats here. You see the MI, okay? Here's the restricted industrial requirement. There's where you can use MC. It's restricted, okay? Here's restricted again for the ITC, that type of thing. And here's your restricted right here for the TCERHL, okay? So you see this little restricted statement ahead of it, okay? So in our example, you're not restricted right here for rigid metal, and that's probably the most common that people use, okay? You're not restricted. You don't have the same restrictions here except for the fact that you've got concrete encasement that's required, right? And that type of thing. You don't have any restriction here for MI except for you got to make sure you have the MI and you have the fittings, okay? That type of scenarios, that type of thing. And then everything else you can see in the 2023, it's restricted, okay? And restricted meaning it's only accessible to specific individuals, not the general public, right? That type of thing. But also what you'll notice is that there are some allowances down here for flexibility, okay? And we really are not going to cover those, but it says if flexibility is necessary to minimize the transmission of vibration from equipment. So let me just kind of explain it. So you have your wiring methods for a class 1 division 1. You're running it, but you may have a specific application where I need flexibility to some piece of equipment that is located in that environment. Okay, the code's got you covered. Code says, okay, maybe you have where the rigid stops and you need some type of flexibility over to the equipment, whatever it be, the utilization equipment that's in that location. I get it. All right, so we have some provisions for flexibility, right? All right, so here's what it says. It says one of the following shall be permitted. Okay, number 1 says flexible fittings listed for the location. So manufacturers make flexible fittings that can work with the type of wiring method that you're using, is provided that they're listed for the location. So obviously the location is a class 1, the division 1 location. So buy the fittings if it provides flexibility that is listed for that location. That's fine. It says flexible cords in accordance with 501.40 terminating with cord connectors listed for the location. So there is some limited applications for flexible cords in 501.140, very limited, but it also means that you're going to have to make sure that that cord is terminated in a connector that is actually listed for that location. So it's going to be more like a ceiling connector, right? And I'm sure there are pricey, right? But again, if you look at 501.40, you'll see here, flexible cords. It gives you flexible cords shall be permitted in the following. And as long as you meet these, okay, that portion from the fixed wiring method and what we just looked at cannot provide the necessary degree of movement for fixed or mobile electrical utilization equipment. And the flexible cord is protected by location or by suitable guard from damage and only in restricted industrial establishment. So you have some allowances here for use in cord applications, okay? But you got to follow all the caveats, okay? So if somebody says to me, Paul, is there ever an application where I can use a cord? Yes, okay? But you got to meet the rules, okay? You just can't willy-nilly do it. You have your wiring methods, and then you have to signify, well, I'm doing this for flexibility. Then you have some options, right? All right, also, again, back to that restricted environment. It says for applications listed to 600 volts nominal or less, the cable is not subject to physical damage, okay? You know, that's in the eye of the beholder. We don't define what physical damage is, but again, it's obvious. It's not, nobody's going to damage unless they go at it with a hacksaw or go at it with a sledgehammer, right? Let's use a little common sense. It says, and this is an and because it got to meet this and this. is terminated with fittings listed for the location. So in a restricted industrial establishment where I need flexibility, I'm going to be allowed to use the TCERHL cable for that flexibility, provided that it is the fittings are listed for that location. Okay, all right. And it says the cables shall be listed for use in Class 1 Division 1 or Zone 1 locations and shall be installed in accordance with 336.10. Of course, 336 is also the rules for tray cable. Okay, just so you didn't see it. Okay, and I'll click on that so you can see right here. So this is the rules. You have all these uses permitted, provided you meet these provisions. And again, like in raceways, things like that. Let's see here. Direct buried when it's marked, things like that. So as long as you meet, here you go. In hazardous classified locations where specifically permitted by other articles of the code. So that is why, that's a good example of, we just saw somewhere else that permitted it. Okay, but then it ended up directing you back saying, okay, but you still have to meet the requirements for installing the tray cable itself. Okay, so you just can't just say, ooh, I can use tray cable. You still got to follow the tray cable rules. Okay, so that's a good example of how it kicks it back and forth in the code. Okay, all right, let's get back to the lesson. All right, so that's different things here. Now, Division 2 applications. All right, so wiring methods in Division 2 say flexible metal conduits and liquid tight flexible metal conduits, okay, shall include an equipment bonding jumper of the wire type in compliance with 250.102. Okay, y'all are familiar with 250.102, which is going to talk about the equipment bonding jumper on the load sides. More is actually going to be 250.102D. That would be talking about equipment bonding jumper applications. But you also have applications where it may be requiring you to use 250.102C, which is a supply side application, depending on what your application is, right? And of course, we'll also see some other references here. But I do want to jump really quick back to the code again. All right. And we're still in 501. And we are jumping down to, let's see here. Let me make sure I'm in the right one. Bear with me. So that's 110. Let's see if I can just jump quickly down to right here. Okay. All right. So this just happens to be reference to grounding and bonding. So people say all the time, they go, okay, this is an example where Chapter 2, which is Article 250 is in there, it talks about grounding and bonding. And this is an example where a Chapter 5, 6, and 7 can modify and supplement Chapters 1 through 7. So you'll get references in 501, right? And it's talking about grounding and bonding. So it's going to make reference to other parts of the code in here. And it's going to come down to here and tell you some specific bonding means. And it's going to give you other things to do, right? So in our case, since we were talking about flexible metal conduit and liquid tight flexible metal conduit, which we'll go back and look at the wiring methods for a second, it says that if you use FMC or LFMC, then you have to comply with these bonding requirements, right? Right? Makes sense, right? So you see how these interconnect and work together. And this is going to make reference to using the equipment bonding jumper requirements in 250.102, right? And so we'll go look at that. But what I wanted to show you is the wiring methods, since we were kind of jumped to it and people get confused with it. I just wanted to show you let's see here. Let's go to, bear with me here. Let me go to the, hold on here. Here. Okay, and let's jump really just quickly for craps and giggles here. So this is Class 1 Division 2, because I did want to show you a little difference, okay? You saw what it had to be for Class 1 Division 1, right? Well, look real quick at Class 1 Division 2. So the Class 1 Division 2, again, a little less stringent in Division 1. I get it, okay? And here's what it says. It says rigid metal conduit. So obviously that's okay in Class Division 1. It should be okay in Division 2, right? Intermediate, that's okay, right? Threaded entry, no problem. Enclosed gaseous busways and enclosed gaseted wireways. That was different. That wasn't in Class 1 Division 1. So a few more types of methods. Here you got PLTC, okay? Okay, power limited tray cable applications. This is typically for class 2, class 3 applications. You get the little allowance there. ITC, instrumentation tray cable, get a little bit of allowance here. Less stringent, okay? It has to include an equipment ground, but less stringent, and it has to have a drain wire. MC, interesting, because this isn't hazardous location MC. This is just regular MC. So you get some relaxation in Division 2 that you don't get in Division 1. So that's why it's so important to get familiar with it, okay? Because here, I am not going to use MCHL for this. Hell no. I'm going to use MC, okay? If I've got cable trays, I'm going to use type TC and type TCER. Okay, the difference in the ER is the ER allows it to extend beyond the tray, whereas TC does not. Okay, that type of application. And it can get deeper than that. It can deal with whether or not there's an equipment ground involved and what size of the conductors and how many conductors are inside the tray cable that can signify whether or not you can mark something as an ER or not. We can get into that in another episode if you want to learn the nuances of tray cable and how the construction is. But for the most part, just remember that ER means that at some point it can go from segment to segment, or it can leave the tray and go into a raceway or extend to a piece of equipment that is outside of the tray assembly, okay? That's all you got to really remember for that. Let's see here. And of course, down here, it says where metal conduit will not provide the corrosion resistance needed for the installation environment. You have other allowances here, PVC coated RMC, PVC coated IMC, yada, yada, yada. You have optical fiber cables, a whole list of them here. Cable buses can be installed in those areas. And then again, if you have restricted industrial requirement, again, then they'll let you use the type P, which is with or without a metal braid. This stuff is like a freaking tank. I am not sure why they only, why it's only allowed in a restricted application, because that stuff is incredible type P product. But again, it is what it is, okay? And then when you see flexible, okay, we're in this location, right? So this is a Division 2 location of a Class 1. Look how it opens up. You can use flexible metal fittings. You got flexible metal conduit with a listed fitting and bonded in accordance with what we saw in 501.30b, which is going to send you to 250.102. Most notably, probably E, because it's going to talk about raceways and things like that and bonding. And you got interlocked armor MC. That's the standard MC with a standard MC fitting. That's going to allow flexibility. I guess the point is, depending on the different type of application that you're dealing with, you've got some allowances, and it's important for you to know whether you're in a Class 1 Division 1, because you have very limited uses of the different wiring methods. Whereas if you're in a Class 1 Division 2, it opens it up greatly. Okay. Now, what you did not see in there is SE cables. You did not see in there NM cables, heaven forbid. You didn't see that in there, right? You didn't see those things. So very specific types of allowances in the different wiring methods, that type of thing, okay? All right, now, staying on that same topic of the bonding, so when you're using FMC or using LTFC, which is liquid tight flexible metal conduit, or LFMC, I guess it would be. One thing to remember is you have additional bonding where you aren't able to utilize the armor, right? And so especially in these types of locations. So it's going to make reference to 501.30b2a and 505.30b2a, which again is zoning when you're dealing with 505. It says bonding jumpers or conductors and equipment bonding jumpers shall be permitted to be installed inside or outside of a raceway or enclosure. So you may need a bonding jumper over a meter. You may need a bonding jumper over a piece of equipment. Maybe there's an actual joint that's a dielectric separation and you need to make it continuous. So you may have a jumper. It may be in the raceway or it may be up to certain lengths outside of a raceway in order to do this. Well, inside a raceway or enclosure, if installed inside the raceway, which is typically where we'd see it, equipment bonding jumpers and bonding jumpers or conductors shall comply with the requirements of 250.119, okay? And that is 119 is talking about how you identify it, green, whether it's bare, all those type of things. That's an identification. And it talks about the requirements of 250.148 about making certain connections and making it to boxes and stuff. And I will show you that so that you kind of have a better understanding of that. So 250.148, I'll show you. I can find it. And that is the continuity. So that is right here. So let's just look at it right here. So that is the continuity of equipment grounding conductors and how they're attached to boxes. Okay. So again, you're going to be raceways that are in these locations. You could have junction boxes. You could have boxes that are hazardous location boxes, explosion-proof boxes. They're metal. You still have to bond them. Okay, still have to do all that. You still have to maintain the integrity of everything tied together. So you will get those references to 25102. And then, of course, if you're talking specifically to the application of the bonding jumpers, that would be where we had 25102, and I will go there. I like to cover all these references so we can see them. So here's 25102. Very familiar. We're very familiar with this. Here's your very common C. Right? This is the one we're used to, minimum sizing and things like that, right? But you also have D, which is equipment bonding jumpers. Any load side bonding, ultimately it's going to send you to 250.122 based on the size of the overcurrent device for the circuit, right? But there you go. That's give you the direction there, and here's how it sends you there. But here we're talking about the installation of the bonding jumpers. So it can either be in the raceway or enclosure, or it can be outside. Now, if it's outside, okay, and I don't know if we have an example, is right here. So here's an example right here. Okay, so rigid's coming in. So this rigid is being used, obviously, in this example as the equipment ground, right? And I'll blow this up so you can see a little bit better, if it lets me blow it up. It's about as best that it's going to do. So here it's coming into the piece of equipment, right? Motor controller, and now it's going out to motor. In this case right here, it's using flexible metal conduit, okay? So it says 10 AWG copper bonding jumper conductors, not more than 6 feet long, run externally routed with the raceway. Okay. So if you see right here, this is what it's talking about. This is a load side application, right? This right here is running external. It is permitted as long as it's run with it. And can it be strapped to it? Yes, it can, because it's associated with that circuit, okay? And so this is be run separate. So this would be acceptable, but you are limited in length, okay? That type of scenario. All right, let's see. Let me close that down. Now, there is obviously exceptions, and this one here says an equipment bonding jumper or supply side bonding jumper longer than 6 feet, okay, so you're limited to the 6 feet, longer than 6 feet shall be permitted at outside pole locations for the purpose of bonding or grounding isolated sections of metal raceways or elbows installed in exposed risers of metal conduits or other metal raceways. Again, as it emerges from grade, bonding, the touch potential thing, right? As it emerges, you have a certain amount of metal, okay, that type of thing. So there you go. Yeah, no other example of this. Also remind you, though, that when you have metal elbows a lot of times that are down below 18 inches, those do not have to be bonded. They're below grade. So you sometimes might have a PVC raceway, and you have a metal 90 because, again, pulling conductors through it could burn it out. In that scenario, that metal, if it's below 18 inches, and you would not have to go try to bond that elbow, it's isolated in the ground, 18 inches deep. You don't have to seek that out to make it. But if you have coming out of the ground, you have a metal, I encourage you to use PVC. If they have coming out, then you still have to bond it, that type of thing. So that's kind of what it's talking about. It lets you, for those applications, it will let you be equipment bonding jumper or supply side. It will let you be a little longer than 6 feet in order to achieve that. Otherwise, the jumper outside is limited to 6 feet. Inside, no limit. Okay. And yes, an equipment grounding conductor also can serve as a bonding function as well. Just make sure it's sized appropriately. And it typically will, because it's all going to send you back to the size of the overcurrent device, and that's how you should be sizing your equipment grounding conductor anyway, right? Makes sense? Get back to the lesson. If all that's confusing, I will tell you that our grounding and bonding course does go into detail on all these types of things, okay? All right, now let's talk about seal-offs, hazardous locations. So conduits and cable seals, Class 1, Division 1, and Division 2. So here you see an example of this location right here is a hazardous location, and it penetrates through this boundary wall, and this location over here is it's unclassified. It's a non-hazardous area, okay? Maybe a waiting room or something like that, okay? So you may have like a aircraft hangar facility, whereas you have a hazardous area on one side and you have the pilot's room where the pilots would sit that's on the other side of a wall, and it's not a hazardous location. Okay, it is different because of where it is. And so now let's say you create, even though it's adjacent, it may have something, pressurization, it may have air exchanges, it may have something that takes it from a hazardous location. Even though it's adjacent, it turns it into a non-classified or unclassified or non-hazardous area. Now you have a raceway that might be passing from a hazardous location into this area that is not a hazardous location. Where do you put the seal? This one, I get a lot of people are confused about this one. All right, so here's what it says. Seals in conduits or cable systems, and you saw the different types of cables that we could use, and that type of thing, within Class 1, Division 1, and Division 2 shall comply with 501.15a through F. So you have an A, a B, a C, a D, an E, and F. Okay, we'll try to paraphrase this out. It says, a conduit seal shall be required in each conduit run leaving a Division 1 or Division 2 location. The seal fitting, okay, the seal fitting shall be permitted to be installed, okay. I was reading a question there. Birdman said he quit something. What's wrong with you, buddy? The seal fitting shall be permitted to be installed on either side of the boundary within 10 feet. Ding, 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 exam type question, right? Of the boundary. And it shall be designed and installed to minimize the amount of gas or vapor within the portion of the conduit installed in the Division 1 or Division 2 location. And that can be communicated beyond that seal. So if you look at this example here, here's your boundary. So this is your area. So they decided they wanted to install the seal on the hazard side. As long as it's within, okay, here, within 10 feet, then the seal could be on the inside. And then on this side, here, then you've got on this side, wow, Birdman, you know what? Okay, I would take it away. I really would. I don't think I would. Sounds like you are very disgruntled. Like says you're unhappy, something like that. Who knows? All right, all right. So here is the other application, right? Where you go the boundary, and they decided they want to install it on this side. Yes, can you have accumulation come in here? Sure. But you're meeting the code. I'm allowed to put it on either side as long as it's not more than 10 feet. So the seal could be out here or the seal could be inside of there. It's your choice. What is my preference? Well, personally, my preference would be to have the seal in the hazardous area, okay? Because typically you're not going to have any type of coupling that's going to be inside of the transition. So typically I wouldn't, as it penetrates through. This might be a rated assembly, so I have to, be careful of having my penetrate through. So in this case, I'd rather it be over here because it's not going to allow any communication through this portion of the wiring method. Whereas out here, it's still, if there's a issue here, it would allow some of it to get outside of the boundary. But that's just a preference. Now, I don't care which one you do, okay? This one or that one, okay? Yeah, I agree with David. If you're going to let some individual in a company drive you out of a profession, then you have a weak constitution in itself. I don't let anybody drive me out of something that I want to do. You know what I'm saying? I would like, dude, my old saying is, you know what? if you're going to leave an industry because of that, then my answer to most people is,
you need to be out of the industry then, pussy. Get out.
Okay. I never let anybody drive me out of anything. Don't take offense to that, Birdman. I'm just saying I wouldn't let anybody drive me out of anything. I'm just saying. All right. Okay. And in fact, it would make me even more determined, if you will. But yeah, go to another company. Yeah. I am sure that I offended somebody with that comment. That's okay. I'm an equal opportunity offender, by the way. All right. All right. So the next one. Okay. So let's talk about the seals. Okay. So typically we put in a compound in there. It's commonly called Chico. There's other manufacturers. That's just one manufacturer. That's one brand. But it's the sealing compound, and it poured in, and it seals it, and it seals it out, and it doesn't allow the gases to get out. Can it be chipped out later? Yeah, it can be. But typically, once those installations are done, it's really not a point, right? So the thickness, though, here's a code questions, codes that stuff that could be on an exam. The thickness of the sealing compound installed in complete seals other than listed cable sealing fittings, which have their own parameters. They come with their own type of mechanism for sealing, okay? Not the kind where we open a plug and we fill it. A lot of times when you buy the ones for cables, they're all self-contained. That's why they cost so much, right? I think Polywater makes specific sealed fittings now, or they bought a company that does. Those things are expensive. They're great, but they're expensive, and they're designed a certain way. You're not going to add compound to it. But you buy these seals with a plug, then you install it. Very common. I'm sure you've seen them where fuel filling stations have this set of nothing but different types of these seals, and you have the fitting, and it aims up, right? And you basically feel it with your Chico or your sealing compound, and then you put it back and you seal. Okay, that type of thing. All right, so here's what it says. It says shall be at least equal the trade size of the sealing fitting. Okay, so other than listed cable sealing fittings, shall be at least equal the trade size of the sealing fitting. However, in no case shall the thickness of the compound be less than 5/8 of an inch. Okay, so if you look in here, you have typically what you do in these. I don't know if any of you've ever installed these before. You typically would install what's called a padding compound or a blocking compound. Some of them come with that already. Depends on the manufacturer. A fiber dam or something that's going to hold the Chico in there. Obviously, you don't want the sealing compound to run down into the actual raceway beyond a fiber dam. But the compound will go in. Every manufacturer could be different. But basically, you're trying to keep the sealing compound right there, okay? That type of thing, okay? So this is what it would be like if you're doing it. Obviously, you don't need that on the top because this one right here would be a vertical. And obviously, you need that damming if you're doing a horizontal, okay? So exam question, what's the thickness? The maximum thickness, it doesn't have to be what? It has to be equal to the trade size of the thickness, means it has to fill up the whole orifice, that type of thing, or shall be the thickness of the compound, but it can't be less than 5/8 of an inch in thickness. I don't know how you measure that, but it is what it is. It says the conduit run between a conduit seal and, so we're talking about the conduit, between a conduit seal, like one of these, and the point to which the conduit leaves the Division 1 or Division 2 location shall contain no unions. Remember what I said in this example right here? I like this one better because I know what the code says in this portion. And here's what it says. In doing that, I can't have what? No unions, no couplings, a box, or other fittings except for a listed explosion-proof reducer installed at the conduit seal. So I may have a reducer on here for some reason in a transition. But other than that, nothing else between this seal right here and where it comes out. Okay, so nothing else in there. I cannot have anything else in there. Coupling that could breach and breakdown or things like that. So I feel much safer in this application here than this application, but that's just a preference. It's not the code. I'm telling you, you can do it either one, right? That type of thing. All right. Okay, so we're going to knock out the hazardous locations right here for commercial garages, repair and storage, kind of get this out of the way. So now we're going to move into 511. And so we go look at the code real quick. And we'll go into, let me get down to 511 so you can see what it's talking about. Okay, so we're moved from 501, 502, 503, all very similar requirements. You can just read them and get familiar with them. We're not gonna deep dive because it is a video show, you know, that type of thing. We get deeper into this in our program, but we're just gonna kind of jump. So we're talking about commercial garages, repair and storage, okay? All right, so what are they, by the way? So important to read the scope. So every time you're working with an article, you need to understand what the crap am I dealing with, okay? Okay. So let's see here. So it says, these occupancies shall include locations used for service and repair operations in connection with self-propelled vehicles. Okay, that's not limited to passenger vehicles, right? Automobiles, could be a in some areas of the country, it could be a what do you call it? A snowmobile, right? Depending on where you're at. Buses, trucks, tractors, all those kind of things, in which volatile flammable liquids or flammable gases are used as fuel or power. Okay, so that's what you have. So I have a commercial garage, repair and storage. These are what it's dealing with. So it's repair and service of self-propelled vehicles, okay? Right? For passenger, automobile, buses, trucks, tractors, yada, yada, yada. Okay, that type of thing. All right, so that's what we're dealing with. Okay, so now we'll get back to the lesson. All right, so 511 occupancies, again, include those used for service and repair of self-propelled. We just read that, so that's the scope. Always read the scope. And then it says a major repair garage. What is a major repair garage? Now, we define that. But it says a major repair garage is a building or portion of a building where major repairs, such as engine overhauls, painting, body and fender work, welding or grinding, and repairs that require draining of the vehicle's fluids, okay, vehicle's fuel tank, are performed on motor vehicles, including associated floor space used for offices, parking, and showroom, okay? So if we go look at Article 100, just so we understand definitions, we'll go to Article 100 and we'll see if what we're under. Let's look under, bear with me, I'll take you there when I get there. Hold on. Just for craps and giggles, let's get here. I got to go through all these. Okay, let's go here. All right, so let's go to the full real quick. So we have garages, right? We know what a garage is. So here's a garage, defined garage. It's a building or portion of a building in which one or more self-propelled vehicles are kept for sale, use, storage, yada, yada, yada. Okay, so that's that. And again, we have an informational note reminding us about 511.1. But then we got two definitions. One is for a major repair garage and one is for a minor repair garage. Okay, what is the difference? Well, again, the major repair one is the one where we're going to be exchanging fuels, that type of thing. Whereas the minor might be something that's as simple as engine tune-up, replacing some parts, oil, antifreeze, transmission, brake fluids, things like that, brake repairs, tire rotations, similar routine maintenance work, including the associated floor space used for offices, parking, or showrooms, okay? But what you don't see in here, okay, is the biggest difference would be this one is very keen on where you'll be draining or emptying the fuel tank, right? Major. And down here, you might be doing fluids, but you're not doing the fuel tank, okay? you're changing other things like oils, antifreeze. Oil has a much higher flame point, that type of thing, auto ignition points and things like that. So it's totally different. Antifreeze different, transmission fluids different, brake fluids different, air conditioning, refrigerant different. Okay, so you may have a Jiffy Lube. That a Jiffy Lube is going to be what's called a minor repair garage. So there's other areas in the code which give specific rules for that, and it's not going to be as strict as it would be for a major repair garage, right? Makes sense? Now, one of the things that we look at, and I'll blow up this example, is that, and we'll look at it in a little more detail, but let's look right here. I'm just going to blow this up. So this is an application of a major, okay? This is a major repair garage, right? And you'll see that right here that it has a pit, and here they're going to drain gas, things like that. So here you have areas that is considered a Class 1 Division 2 location. You may have an area, depending on if this pit is ventilated, it means it's going to have 4 air exchanges per hour, keep the levels low, then it's still a hazardous classified location, but it is not as problematic as this pit, which has no ventilation. That means that the gases are going to collect there, and if you drop a tool or you drop something, creates a spark, you got a problem. So you may have a ventilated area in a major car garage that we can reduce the hazard. We can drop it down from a Class 1 down to a Division 2. And you saw all the wiring methods that we can use in a Class 1 Division 2, but you also saw the limited number that we can use in a Class 1 Division 1. So that also goes for different types of equipment. Much more expensive equipment in a Class 1 Division 1 than it may be in a Class 1 Division 2, right? So it can be a huge cost difference. So it may behoove us to make sure that we install a ventilation system, right, in the garage area, major car garage, major repair garage, in order to reduce the classification because of the wiring methods, okay? That's all the type of things that you have to think of when you're designing a system, okay? And it's like, dude, it's gonna cost this much money to make everything, and all the wiring methods, and all the restrictions, if we leave it at Class 1 Division 1, right? But we may be able to change some things. So 18 inches up is a Class 1 a Division 2 location. At the pit may be a Class 1 Division 1, but what can we do in order to reduce that area and drop it down so that we're only dealing with a Class 1 Division 2 location? And if we do that and we ventilate it, we can change the type of wiring methods that we run. And that's ultimately going to save money, less, harder type of wiring methods to deal with. We have more options, right? As an electrician, we don't care. Really, I don't care, except for I know that if I have the ability to run other types of wiring methods that may be easier to install than me running rigid all the time or intermediate all the time, then I'm like, hey, I'm all for that, right? All right, so here's the minor repair, okay? So the minor repair location, dealing with this, you have the same little lube job shop here, and you've got this area up 18 inches, let's say. Here it'd be a Class 1 Division 2, okay? Right? But the area in the pit down here would be a Class 1 Division 2 because it doesn't have the same volatility that we would have, right, with the Class 1 Division 1 location. Very important, and we're not dealing with the same types of liquids and things like that. So it's so important to understand what you're working in and whether something's classified as a minor repair or something that is a major repair. Okay, if they're going to be somewhere that drains the gas, that type of thing of or volatile, flammable liquids and things like that, or can generate vapors, volatile vapors, you just know it's going to be a Class 1 Division 1 unless you can do something with the air exchange and get that rating down, okay? All right, so there we go. So those are the two, and we didn't really go too deep into these. Again, we're just trying to cover the 1,000-foot view on hazardous locations. Once you establish it, and I will go back just to show you this because I do have people that say, well, Paul, can you give us a little bit more on that 511? Yeah, I mean, I can give you a little bit more, but it's more for an exam. It's more just the ability to be able to look it up, right, and find it. But I'll take you there. So just to kind of give it a quick overview, here we go. It's not very big, by the way. So we saw the scope. We know what is it, okay? And we have other things that may apply. When you see other articles, by the way, guys, what that means is you have the general scope that's going to be talked about in 511, but you do have other areas in the code that are going to be applicable. For example, the wiring in this commercial garage, remember the wiring methods that are in that pit, let's say, or that area that is classified? Well, it makes a reference to that wiring may have to meet part 2 of 501. 501, we know that is class 1 locations, right? And it's also going to tell you the same equivalent if you're using the zone. Yeah, you can use either the zones or the division. It's up to you. Mostly in Europe, they use zone. In the US, we typically use, or North America, we tend to use division. But again, they kind of overlap. All right? And we'll go over some of that later in upcoming episodes. We'll do a video, or we'll do a coffee hour that explains the zones in comparison to the division. Okay, but your engineer can use either. It's not a problem. Area classification in general. Okay, it says where class 1 liquids or gaseous fuels are stored, handled, or transferred. Remember, we're talking about commercial garages now. It says electrical wiring and electrical utilization equipment shall be designated in accordance with the requirements of class 1, division 1 or 2 hazardous locations. Again, in accordance with 500.5 and 500.6. So remember, we got to go all the way back to 500, right? It's not just that it says that here. We know that now we got to go back and say, okay, what kind of gases are here? What kind of fuels? What do we got? So now we use 500 in order to make sure we know the type of location we're dealing with, the type of groups of different equipment that can be in these groups, and depending on the gases and things that we're dealing with. So that's how they work together. So 500 is your base. You go there to establish the location, to establish the division. You go there. Once you know that, then you look and say, okay, I have a commercial garage, okay? And again, it's important to know whether it's a major repair or minor repair, right? What fuels, what liquids, what vapors are going to be exchanged. And then you can dig deeper into the locations. And again, but you can't really get there unless you understand 500 to establish that, unless the engineer just tells you. I mean, if it's on engineer's already done that, then he's probably just telling you, that type of thing. Also, let's see here. What else do I want to go? A class 1 or class I, however you like to pronounce it, I just call it class 1 location, shall not extend beyond an unpierced wall, roof, or other solid partition that has no openings. Okay? And it says where the term class 1 is used with respect to zone classification within this article of the code, it shall apply to zone 0, zone 1, and zone 2 designations. So anywhere in here that it mentions class 1, okay, and it even if it's talking about a zone 1, the restrictions in class 1 are also going to be applicable to the zone 0, zone 1, zone 2, okay? And we'll look at all those zones, that type of thing. And say, so here's your repair garage, here's your repair minor or major, right? And here's your extent of your classifications. It basically tells you the zones, tells you the group rating of the equipment in the zone. It tells you all those things. Let me go back to the left. It tells you the division here, okay? And this would be a group D, okay? And then over here, it tells you the zone, okay? So they're both here, both zone and division. Most people use division, okay? And it gives you extent of the classified location. So it gives you the examples of how it extends. And that's where you heard me say 18 inches, right? So 18 inches above the floor level of the room, except as noted below, and that type of thing. So here is all your conditions. We're not going to go into all of these, okay? But if you look at the illustration, for example, right here, you see this is an example where, in this case, since it doesn't have fuel, that this would be a class 1 division 2 location, and then up to 18 inches above the floor would also be a class 1 division 2 location, okay? So it's going to extend out the garage, okay? So you're going to get the locations all in those tables in the code there in 511.3c. That's going to be the table that you would use to see how it's going to be 18 inches, all those type of stuff. Okay. All right, let's go to some giveaways real quick, as I have gone over again, as I always do. So let's do some giveaways. And let me put it this way, tomorrow is Friday. We will finish Hazardous Locations, regardless if it's a 2 hours, we will finish tomorrow. Okay. And that means that we're going to dig into fuel dispensing tomorrow. We're going to talk about the aircraft hangar, bulk storage, talk about spray booths, very quickly go over that. And then we're going to talk about Class 2, Division 1 locations very quickly, and we're going to move through all that type of stuff. So we're going to move quick tomorrow. But it's going to be a 30,000 foot view. Remember what I said. If you want to get very specialized in it and all the little nuts and bolts, then you need to take a course that just does nothing but talk about hazardous locations. We're not going to do that on Coffee Hour. I'm giving you a taste. I'm talking about it very high level. I'm giving you little tidbits here and there. If you want to be that go-to person for hazardous location, then there are courses out there available that get directly into hazardous locations and will beat it to death. If that's your thing, then I encourage you to do that. Look for a course that does that. We don't offer that goes that deep into it. I'll answer any question you have on it. If you want to read up on 500, 501, 502, 503, 504, all the 511, and you want to send me a question at Let's Ask Paul, please do. I will give you an answer. I just can't go over it. You've already seen it's taken 3-4 days for me to cover just a generic, because I do talk a lot and I am long-winded, and people hate that too. Some people do. I don't care what you like. I'm going to do me, right? So, don't send me the nasty email that says, Paul, you get a lot more done if you didn't talk as much. Piss off. Okay? All right. Anyway, so here we go. High voltage hands. And I do have somebody that sent me an email one time that says, Paul, don't say piss off. Don't say a nasty word. I'm going to stop watching you because of that. You know, my answer to that is piss off. You know what? If you can't handle a little bit of that, then go watch somebody else. Mike Holt, he won't say that in his videos. Go watch Mike. Great guy. All right, so here we go. There you go. So you got the trade hog. You're in the drawing. Okay, let's do another one. All right, Salty. You get a Fast Tracks tube. I don't know if you already have it. If you do, let us know. We'll spin again for you. But you get Fast Tracks tube. Anybody wonders what that's about, just go to fasttrackstube.com or fasttrackstv.com. Doesn't matter. And you go there and sign up for the free account, and then let us know. And then our team will upgrade you to your annual subscription. You'll get a free year of access to Fast Tracks Tube. And you heard what everybody said about it. They said it is amazing. So you definitely want to get it if you don't have it. Alex, you missed a lot, friend. Go back and watch the replay today. All right, Mike Caldry. You were in the drawing for the NEC flashcards. And Mike, when we do that drawing, if we have other flashcards that are out, then you can pick whichever one you want. Okay, so we're going to have a calculation one out by then, and probably some other stuff. A grounding and bonding specific flashcard set, motors flashcard set. We're going to have those out. You could pick whichever, whatever you want. That type of thing. All right, let's see here. All right, Mike, we got you. Do another drawing. Let's go. Let's go. Nobody's winning the NFC card. Look at that, still in the plastic. Whoop, whoop, whoop. Look at that. It's tap of fun. All right, you saw what this is an instant win. So if you go over to our website, okay, and you register on our website, fasttracksystem.com, get an account, register for an account first. Once you have an account, email us and let us know. You can email us at info@electricalcodeacademy.com. You can do support, SUPPORT, at fasttracksystem.com. You can use paulabernathy.com. You can use the contact us feature on any of the websites. Let us know your username and information, and then what we will do is we will give you access to the 25-question 2023 exam prep question database. It's just 25 questions. It is for sale for $9.95 on our website. You will get it for free, and we will put it into your account, and it'll be in your profile. So that's an instant win. So you get the 25-question quiz if you would like it. Okay, but you got to go sign up for the account. It's free. Just register over on our website. Let's see here. All right, spin another one. That's a new one, by the way, we added to the wheel, in case you wondered. All right, so there you go. We are also giving away on the wheel. There is a free flashcard as well. Not a drawing, but the free one. Did get your email out, Flex. We are a little slow in getting stuff out there as Jeff is trying to catch up, but we got all the courses out first. But anyway, you might already have Fast Tracks Tube. If you do, let us know. We will spin again for you. And if we leave today, let me know the next day. We'll spin the next day. We'll spin tomorrow. Just let me know. I'll remember you. I got you down, and I've got you. And let's see here. Also, I did get an email from JPB about your Fast Tracks Tube. We will get that initiated for you. Yes, I see in here in the record where you did win it. We will get you. All you have to do is, again, let us know, and you did, and we will get you elevated on that. So no worries. You'll get your access to Fast Tracks Tube. Okay. Oddflex says spin that sucker again. Let's go. He either has it or he wants nothing to do with Fast Tracks Tube. I'm just saying. He said, I don't need that crap. He said,
man, I don't need any of that stuff. Man, what are you doing? All right, Odd Flex, you have got a registration for the electrician's knife. Okay, so you are definitely in. Now, he already has it. There you go. Okay, sweet.
That's okay, because he's got it. And we're all good.
everybody, attention everybody in the house. Oddflex already has Fast Tracks Tube. Tension, feedback. Okay, all right, so here we go. All right, so let's do one more. Let's give one more away. Yeah, because we were redrawing for Oddflex again, Adam. He did not want it. He said spin again, so that's why only one spun, because he already has Fast Tracks Tube. So that's why we only spun that one. All right, last one. He wanted me to spin again. So we left it on his name and we just spun again. Damn it, Adam. What are you, my police? Huh? What are you, policing my spin? All right. Anselmo. All right, Anselmo. Let's see. Caro, you won a wire waffle. So let me know. Just send us your email address or through paulabernathy.com. Let me know your, not email, your physical address so we can get you out a wire waffle. Okay? That type of scenario. All right? Also, lastly, I'll talk about one thing because I did have a great conversation with somebody yesterday who watches our show, and we had a great conversation about EVSE and chargers in the 2026 edition of the National Electrical Code. One of the things that's going to change under 625 is that GFCI is going to be required regardless of whether it's cord and plug or hardwired for EVSE. So that's coming, whether you like it or not. Now it depends on whether or not you're hardwired or receptacle, right? And so that, and then the next thing that they're going to be introducing is the fact that the receptacle itself has to be evaluated for EVSE, because what happens is a standard receptacle, whether it's a 50 amp receptacle or 30 amp, whatever you're using, like a 1450 NEMA rated receptacle, people are reporting that they're burning up or having problems with them. And the reason that they might be seeing these problems is because these devices were never evaluated for use in continuous loads, and they were never evaluated for use for a constant current for long periods of time. Remember, they're designed for ranges, which cycle on and off. They're not continuous loads. They were designed for dryers. Dryers not going to run 3 hours its maximum output. It's on and off, on and off. So yeah, you're making and breaking like a normal device. The problem is they weren't originally designed to be something that would pull continuous loads. And of course, 625 says that an EVSE is to be treated as a continuous load, right? It's not talking about at its full value for 3 hours or more. It literally tells you to treat it as a continuous load. Okay, that receptacle was never rated for that type of evaluation. So depending on how good the connections are, over time it generates heat, and that's where we start seeing those breakdowns. So receptacles are now, a cord and plug, for example, coming out in the 2026, it's going to require that those devices be evaluated for use with an EVSE system and a circuit. So they may have a little symbol on them. They may have a little car on them. They may have something on them. I've not looked deep into it. I know there's other manufacturers that make them right now, but you're not going to be able to use a standard receptacle, because a standard 50 amp receptacle, because they are not designed that way. Okay, that type of thing. Oh, look at Birdman. You know, this is a kind of guy, Birdman. Let's just highlight Birdman real quick. Birdman is the kind of guy who will go to social media and talk a bunch of shit but can't back it up because he's a little man. Little man. Birdman. Little man. That type of thing, right? So again, that's the kind of people you get on social media. They talk a lot of smack, but they can't back it up. Hey, Birdman, you want to confront me? Guess what? I will be at the NFPA conference, June 16th, 17th, and 18th. You want to talk smack, I'll be there. Bring it on. Let's see. I'm an old man, but I'll put up a scuffle. If you want to go to the NECA event and you want to talk your smack to my face, join me. I will be at the NECA in Chicago, okay? Little people like you talk smack because usually it's folks like you that can't do. That's why you talk smack, because you don't have the skills. You don't have the experience. You don't have the technique. You don't have the knowledge. Little people, you know what? Not little people in smidgets or small people, but little people in the mind. Birdman. Exactly a bird with a little bitty mind. I'm just saying. All right, folks. Everybody, take care. God bless. Don't be offended, Birdman. Just teasing you. Till next time, stay safe. God bless, folks. Catch you on the next episode of Coffee Hour. I love it. Take care.